endangered Californian pines that are growing wild in Africa. They are joined by thousands of other mammals, birds, and plants, as well as by microbes, fungi, worms, snails, shrimps, insects, fish, toads, and lizards. The trickle of successful species taking advantage of human-created opportunities is becoming a torrent. Seemingly, there are as many winners as losers. We should certainly mourn the losses. The biological and physical processes of the Earth already bear the indelible signature of humanity. This is why scientists are increasingly referring to the present day as the Anthropocene epoch. We have converted a third of the world's vegetation to produce our food, leaving a diminishing space for wild plants and animals. We have altered the great chemical cycles of the Earth beyond their historical bounds, acidified the oceans, and changed the climate of the entire planet, threatening any species that cannot adjust. Our ancestors hunted most of the largest land animals to extinction, and we exterminated others by transporting voracious predators and virulent diseases to remote islands. Of those that survive, 13% of bird species, 26% of mammals, 31% of cacti, 33% of reforming corals, and 42% of amphibians are threatened in some way. A mass extinction is in full swing, and prognoses for the future seem dire. For these reasons, we have gone so far as to describe ourselves as the scourge of the Earth, and as exceeding our planetary boundaries. On the other hand, we are still surrounded by large numbers of species, many of which appear to be benefiting from our presence. If some species are declining, but others are thriving in this human-altered world, is the prognosis really as bad as the doom-laden message of biological decline? It is important to recognize the ways our actions threaten the Earth, of course, and I will highlight many losses that have already taken place and continue to this day. However, in many respects, nature is coping surprisingly well in the human era. We should not ignore the gain side of the great biological equation of life. It is vital that we take a broad view, considering all the evidence, if we are to draw conclusions that run somewhat counter to the paradigm of biological decline that predominates among ecologists, environmentalists, and conservationists. So, in this book, we will embark on a round-the-world tour of the planet's diverse continents and far-flung islands, visiting locations where my research has taken me over the past several decades. I refer to changes in the oceans only in passing, in the interests of keeping this volume to a manageable length, and because it is not my area of expertise. Our journey will take in tick and leech-filled tropical forests, bone-cold high mountains, oceanic archipelagos overrun by foreign species, and landscapes devoted to the production of our food, each with its own separate human history. I also draw on insights from a wider scientific literature based on research that has been carried out in a broader range of locations across the Earth. This is important because we live in a globalized world. Our greenhouse gas emissions warm the climate everywhere. We consume food and use timber that may have been grown on the opposite side of our planet, and species are being transported in our wake. We need a truly global perspective to understand the ramifications of our own actions. We also need to set today's changes in their appropriate historical context, which involves time spans much longer than we are used to thinking about in our everyday lives. This is necessary because the story of life on Earth is one of never-ending change, be that the arrival and disappearance of species from a particular location, ecological change, or the longer-term formation of new species and extinction of others, evolutionary change. So we examine the responses of species and ecosystems to human impacts over periods that range from years to millennia. We will also reflect on the fates of animals and plants as they experienced ice ages on schedules of tens to hundreds of thousands of years. And we will examine the consequences